Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our Thunderbolts review. Both Will and I have had the opportunity to check out Thunderbolts, and now we're going to dive in deep with our review. The first half of the video is going to be non spoiler, and then we will give our rating, and then we'll go into spoiler talk. So if you haven't seen Thunderbolts yet, just watch the first half and then come back and watch the rest of the video after you have seen it. I think Will and I would both say we recommend the movie in a nutshell, but we'll go into our ratings here in a little bit. Will, a lot of people have been saying Florence Pugh has been a star in this. Was one of the bright spots. Lewis Pullman's another one. I don't know about you, but to me, the character that kind of stole the show in this was John Walker, played by Wyatt Russell. Uh, you find out a lot about his backstory and his family life, etc. And to me, John Walker was already one of the most interesting characters introduced in phase four of the MCU. But this movie just really solidified that for me. I thought he was quite incredible. Lewis Pullman, great as well. It's kind of crazy to see all the classmates in Top Gun Maverick going on to do big things. Danny Ramirez is the new Falcon in Captain America: Brave New World. Of course, Glenn Powell is everywhere. But Will, to me, really the big standout of this was Jake Schreier, the director. I mean, this is a guy who is committed to shooting on location, shooting stunts practically. Like you can tell when a car flips in this movie, that car is actually flipping. And you can tell it's shot on location. It looks beautiful. And there's been talks going around right now that he might be the director for the next X-Men movie, which, if that's the case, I'm all in for. Will, was there a specific character that really stuck out to you as being the one that you thought stole the show?
Um, I yeah, John Walker definitely was a highlight. I mean, previously I didn't really care about the character. I mean,
Hmm.
he's been AWOL since Falcon and Winter Soldier, so I mean we haven't really seen him.
Yeah, I thought he was in something else in between, but I forget what that would be.
I mean, if he was, I'm blank on it. It would probably
Could have been like
pretty
Secret
forgettable.
Invasion, maybe. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll look it up.
I
But
don't believe he was the Secret Invasion, but then again, I'm also trying to make sure that never creeps back in my mind again,
agreed.
because it doesn't exist in my MCU.
No, it
um,
doesn't exist in any MCU.
There you go. Yeah, no, I would say he was getting that character structure was really nice, and just kind of understanding what he went through post Captain America.
Hmm.
Because I mean it's just a really interesting take, and it kind of gives us a glimpse into the what if. Just kind of throwing a callback to oh, I'm blanking on his name, but the Captain America that we like the secret Captain America we saw in Brave New World is
The
oh
Secret Captain America.
um Isaiah.
Oh, the oh yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah, so like kind of like what he would have went through minus the prison
yeah,
in the 70s, because he was kind of like a secret soldier from then,
yeah.
and whatnot. So it kind of gives a glimpse into what could have been there. Red Guardian, I love the Red Guardian in this movie.
I did
Um
too. I A lot of the sins of more recent Marvel movies has been putting comedy in the wrong spots and undermining very serious scenes with quips and jokes. This movie handled it perfectly. It was
I
funny when
agree.
it needed to be, but it took the serious stuff seriously, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, and one thing so I went with my with one of my buddies, and he had mentioned like something that he compared it a little bit to Love and Thunder, in
Mhm,
that in the first two acts of Love and Thunder, the comedy kind of fit, but it didn't fit in the third act.
mhm.
And he said the same thing with this one, was not the same thing. Sorry, he said this one they did it right, where the first two acts you kind of got that comedy, but you didn't see it in the third act.
Yeah.
I think it just, I mean, this is my memory at the moment. This is from last night. I think there was only one joke told in the entire third act, and it wasn't even like a real joke. It was more of like a feel good moment between Red Guardian and Florence Pugh.
Yeah. That was
Um,
definitely the one of the highlights was their dynamic.
yes,
And if there's any movie or show that you need to watch going into this, I would say it would be the Black Widow movie. And probably Falcon and the Winter Soldier would be helpful just for John Walker and that aspect. But
and if you
well,
want a little more, if you're a little more character development, I mean, the Hawkeye show with Florence Pugh could also
yeah,
be a part of it, just to kind of see her evolution. Because one of my biggest complaints from the Black Widow movie was I thought her Russian accent was awful in that movie. And I
I'd have to
maintain that
revisit it. Yeah.
I maintain that to this day, but it got better in Hawkeye, and I think it was really, really good in Thunderbolts.
Yeah, and I don't want to go into too much spoilers, but the opening scene, Florence Pugh does a stunt that's kind of all over social media, and apparently she lobbied for it. Like she was really trying to convince Kevin Feige to let her do it, and of course they went ahead and did it, and it just really comes across well on screen. Um, I don't know about you, Will, but to me, the first act was the best. Um, Something that's being made sort of a big deal is there's a character that sort of gets the short end of the stick, but when you have an ensemble this big, all of your attention can't be on 10 different characters. You have to pick and choose some here and there, right? But I love the first act in particular. It feels very isolated and almost one location. And I thought for a minute, I'm like, is this whole movie going to be this? Like this scene? Is this going to be like Dread? Or is this going to be like the raid or something? And I thought that would have been so cool. But
That'd be an interesting concept. I know what you're referring to, and actually I have a theory about that. We'll get into that in the spoilers.
mm,
And I want to get your opinion on it. At least I'm reasonably sure I know what you're referring to.
yeah, the
In
second
terms of the
act,
character.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. The second act, there's a lot more exposition. It's build up towards the big fight scene at the end of the second act, and then a really sort of unique third act that isn't, big CGI destroying fest. It's more intimate character stuff and something more than what it could have been. Almost like a Dormammu I've come to bargain type third act of Doctor Strange. But uh,
Speaking of that second act, this is not really a spoiler, but I'll save for the spoilers just in case. But there's a scene in there that really, I think it was a really cool callback to Terminator 2. And
mm,
I'll explain that during the spoiler aspect
yeah,
of
I
it.
still
But
don't know what you're referring to. You were talking
uh,
about this earlier.
as soon as I tell you it, you'll know exactly what I mean. So,
Yeah.
but I know the third act. I think the third act for me was probably the best part. At least for me, it
Mhm.
was. More so because, like you said, they didn't over CGI it,
Yeah,
and what they did CGI wasn't necessarily um the focal point of the scenes.
for
It was
sure.
more of kind of the outer end.
Yep.
And it's something like I could really break down in the spoiler aspect of this because like I really don't
Yep.
want to say anything. Um, but like what you need to see in the third act is all practical and it's all actor based, which is
Yep.
very different from a lot of the recent MCU and actually maybe MCU as a whole.
Yeah.
Um, which is really nice to see. Kind of like maybe it provides more faith into the process now
Yep.
because it it means that they're listening to the fans and they're listening to their actors who want to put on a good showing and want to have great performances and great movies to build off of.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've heard a lot of people say this is a return to form for Marvel. I completely disagree. This is a breath of fresh air for Marvel.
I
Um,
100% agree. Like, I mean, in terms of quality, say it's a return to form, but
yeah.
in terms of the movie itself, it's completely different from
Mhm.
what you would expect from a typical MCU movie. This is not your typical shoot 'em up, blow it up, we go home.
Yeah. No, there's some deep themes here. There's going to be some moments that will probably hit you in the feels, regardless of where you are in your life. Um, but Will, do you want to move on now and we'll give our ratings before we go into
Yeah.
spoiler talk?
Yeah, I'm down for
Okay.
that. Do you want to give yours first or want me to give mine?
I'm going with an 8.5.
Okay. Um, I coming out of the theater, I messaged this to you. I gave it an 8.
Hmm.
But having time to kind of like let it kind of percolate in my brain a little bit and kind of like just go over it. I'm with you. I think it's an 8.5. And I would say this might firmly be a top 10 MCU movie. And based off of what we've talked about coming into this, was not something that I thought would happen.
No, same here.
I figured this would be more like Suicide Squad, where it kind of would be away from everything, and kind
Yeah.
of either sink or swim based off which Suicide it would have been, whether it's the first one which really floundered or the second one which was really really good.
Yeah.
And I think it was definitely the latter. But it's definitely unlike Suicide Squad. This definitely fits the MCU.
Absolutely. For reference, I have it at my 14th. I'm sorry, the 13th highest rated movie. I kind of have it around like the Thor Ragnarok and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, Spider-Man Homecoming, that sort of tier. But upon subsequent rewatches to me, this will probably go up. Very, very emotional movie. There's one scene in particular with Florence Pugh and David Harbour at the start of the third act that I thought was really moving. Um, and the movie doesn't necessarily go into great lengths explaining its themes or going much deeper than the surface, but it just feels so different because it's Marvel doing these themes, right? They're used to just making popcorn movies, but this just felt completely different. And I actually went back and rewatched Jake Schreier, his last movie, which was Robot and Frank, and that movie's quite good as well. I mean, this guy's a really talented up and coming director.
And I mean, if he ends up doing an X-Men movie, he would fit the mold because X-Men is all about that, like,
Social commentary, and
yeah, and it very like it deals with with a lot of like mental health themes, which I mean,
it can,
back
yeah,
in the late '90s and early 2000s when the original trilogy came out, wasn't really something that they developed on. They kind of just, they were themes there, but they weren't flushed out.
yeah,
It was more about the social aspect of like, well, we kind of social commentary on racism was kind of the more thematic approach they took,
yep.
which is something they could do again, but then they can also go deeper. And Jake Schreier definitely would be the guy I would choose to do it because he hit a home run here with Thunderbolts.